Bitcoin is this major disruptive event in an otherwise somewhat hopeless situation, perhaps. Now, when we were talking offline, you were describing this, Bitcoin as an innovation, as something comparable to the printing press, perhaps, right? That like prior to the Gutenberg printing press, very few people were literate.
Correct.
Very few people had the skill of numeracy, for instance. Then after the printing press, the cost of books collapses, literacy becomes much more widespread, numeracy becomes much more widespread, and we get all of these...
You got libraries and...
libraries, the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, the Industrial Revolution. Like we had this cascading effects that followed really this human cognitive software update that resulted from cheaper books, basically.
Right.
So, and then you also mentioned like things like the automobile, right? Like who knew when the automobile was invented that it would lead to, freeways in the cities and all of and things like the airplane, right? That changed the world. So how do you look at Bitcoin in this sequence of innovations that are so earth-shattering that like, it's almost like before the automobile, after the automobile, before the printing press, after the printing press? How do you look at the world before Bitcoin versus after Bitcoin?
I think it's an innovation on the same scale, maybe higher, maybe lower. You can argue about that. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the one I like to use, and we talked about this before offline, I like to use the example of Microsoft, right? I was fortunate enough, my business school roommate was college roommates with Steve Ballmer. And I'll recall very clearly walking along the Charles River in '83 and Ballmer saying, Larry, this thing is the core of the computing operation of a PC. The PC had just come out a couple of years ago. And every house is going to have 2 or 3 PCs. Everyone's going to need this thing, and it's a monopoly. And this company's going to be worth billions of dollars. We're going to sell millions and millions of copies of it. It's going to be worth billions of dollars. And I was kind of thought, God, this guy's nuts. But I could kind of see the vision. And, in '86, when it came public at 14 times trailing and growing 40% a year, I bought some. And I made the wrong mistake. I sold it in 3 years to buy a condo. I had to 3x my money, and I sold it, which was wrong. I should have hung on to some of it at least. But he was right, and that was 40 years ago now. Okay, 83 to today, so almost perfect 40 years. And he was right, and it was because the microchip and the PC, continued to develop and really did enhance and improve people's lives, and it was a true technological innovation. It started off just as a word processor in Lotus 1-2-3. Now we know all the things it can do. The internet comes along and connects everybody. And, before that it was Novell and you had internet connectivity at an office level, but the notion you could send email around the world, kind of obsoleting the post offices in a way, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Here you've got a form of digital money that obsoletes the old kind of money.
Right. And
I don't think we can really see what the implications are, but it's pretty clear to me that in the longer, because it's perfect money, because it can't be diluted, because it takes the power of the printing press away from these evil government actors, because it's verifiable, triple entry, and all the things we've discussed, because it can settle in 10 minutes, it's pretty clear to me that, in our lifetime, my lifetime, certainly my kids' lifetime, we are going to be on a SAT standard, that we are going to pay for things in SATs, that a steak will cost X sats and gasoline costs Y sats. And I don't know where the dollar is in that world. And I know Saylor doesn't like to talk about this because I don't think he wants to assail the dollar because he figures, why go pick a fight with the U.S. government?
Right.
But I think he's smart enough to know, and I'm sure in his core beliefs, he knows that this is where it's going to go. I mean, this is going to be money. This is going to be the only form of money. Everyone's going to use it.
Yeah.
Now, to get there, you've got to move, and I talked about this with some guys yesterday, you've got to move from its store of value properties, which is really the primary use case today, right? It's a great way to save, to its medium of exchange use case, which, frankly, it's clunky today. Lightning is clunky. We need to do a lot of work on the on layer 2 and the medium of exchange use case, but we will. We will. I mean, I was involved in investing in the internet in '93, and when it first came out, I was putting a phone into a modem and hearing, and 1200 baud, and it was slow as shit, and it was a green screen. Later, I had Windows, I had a graphic user interface, I had broadband. I mean, it was on its way to becoming what the internet is today. So I've seen this model. It was the same thing too. It was networking. The more people were on it, the more valuable it got.
Yes.
Which was what led to Amazon, which is what led to Google, which is what led to Facebook, and all these networked models that benefit from Metcalfe's law. Right. So this is the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to fuck it up this time. I mean, I fucked it up that time because I didn't invest in Amazon and Facebook and Google because they weren't making any money. And I was a traditionally trained investor, and I wanted to buy things that made money. I had a value bent.
Right.
And what I didn't realize is the value that can be created through Metcalfe's law. The other thing is they were somewhat deceptive businesses because, Jeff Bezos is where he is today because he had zero cost of capital.
Right.
Because we had ZERP.
Right, of course.
And so, in regular world land, if you had a company that wasn't earning a profit, you couldn't raise money.
Right.
But he was able to raise money, and it didn't matter because money was free.
Right.
So, kind of a funny story there. But look, Bill Miller got it, and he made a fortune in buying Amazon stock, and I missed it, and I'm pissed at myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to miss it this time. I'm not going to miss it.
That's a great point, actually. So there was a part of Bezos' success with Amazon was state interference, right? In the form
fiat-based.
in the form of zero interest rate policy, ZERP, as you said. Also, because early days Amazon, they circumvented sales tax, right? That if you were buying stuff online, you just didn't pay sales tax.
Although I'm not sure people were really using it for that reason.
No, but it made it more pricing competitive.
Yeah, it helped.
Right?
It definitely helped.
Yeah. And so, you establish really strong network effects, and then they just start with books,
and then you got volume, you got buying power, and you're Walmart on the internet.
Yeah.
Walmart on the internet.
Yeah. So what do you, again, I know it's probably almost an impossible question to ask, but is there anything, if you look around the corner of where Bitcoin takes us, like you mentioned offline the dissolution of nation states, like what types of radical earth-shattering events do you expect post-Bitcoin? I do.
I think we are in an age of decentralization. Mm-hmm. And these nation states don't serve us anymore. Mm-hmm. This revolution is going to allow us all to rethink what is the role of government. Why do we need governments at all? Mm-hmm. They consume in the world. They generally consume half of the productive capacity. That's fucking insane.
Right.
When I go back to core principles and I think about governments, and I'm not an anarchist. There's some people who think, well, we need no government. I don't go there. My personal belief is that what government should be is a fair referee.
Yeah.
I want to have somebody who will pay cops and pay courts and pay judges to keep the rules fair and throw the bad guys in jail. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a role for governments to do that. And arguably to protect you from evil actors. But to be honest with you, I think if you look around the world, and some people are convinced there are tons of evil actors at the government level. I'm less convinced. I think we could actually make wars and nuclear weapons and all of that a thing of the past. Because I don't think the average man wants to kill other people.
Sure.
I think 98% of this planet are not psychopaths, and they don't want to kill people.
Right.
They just want to live peacefully and raise their family and do the best they can.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, it begs the question of why do we need an enormous national scale government?
Right.
One could provide police and courts at a local level or at a state level,
right,
or in a smaller regional level. And it seems, I suspect, I predict that 50 years from now the United States might not be the United States. There might be a lot of different little places around the United States, and each one will, and people will self-select. If you're really liberal and you want to live with a bunch of crazy liberals, well, fine. You can live in the Northern California district. And do whatever you want. And, right? If you're full of all, you don't believe in any of that shit, and you want to just live free or die, you're in Texas or wherever you are.
Right.
It's but who knows? Who knows how we get from here to there? And there are a lot of people who believe that in the fourth turning terms, we've got to go through some mega war. This Thucydides trap that we're going to have a mega war to get to the other side of it. I'm not so sure. I think our biggest competitors are China and Russia, and I don't really think they want to kill people either. I know people will disagree with that, particularly with respect to Russia. Look, Putin's probably killed a lot of his political opponents, but I thought it was really brilliant. Remember when back in Britain in the day when he poisoned some guy there was some spy who got out and he was in Britain and Putin killed him.
Yeah,
clearly,
yeah,
twice.
and he recently apparently killed one of his political opponents.
Well,
that
the
he had
guy,
in
yeah, the
prison.
jet, he shot down. Yeah, and he does that shit. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But they went and they questioned him on the guy in Britain, and the Western, journalist questioned him. He said, look, what do you guys think? You think I'm naive? I mean, tell me what happened in November, of 1963 in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the way shit runs.
Yeah.
I mean,
of course.
and I think, I hope and I pray that enough of mankind is aware of the danger of a full-fledged nuclear exchange that we're not going to get there, and we're not going to go there.